Good morning, hello, and welcome. It is 7:30. It is the 25th day of June, 2021. I am your grumpy guide to all things gaming, the OGGM. Support me, Coke. I need a sponsor, and I will sell out. Content warning, as always. This is an 18 plus, not safe for anybody production. And I may say things that are kind of salty about a certain game company. So if that upsets you, stop watching now. I'll give you 5 seconds. Okay, it is Monday, which means it's time for the RPG news and news related to RPGs. And oh boy, do we have a lot. I know the last couple weeks have been a little short on the news, and we've had to extrapolate. But this week, at least, it seems that the engine is running at least at 99%. Why is that? Well, I assume it's because it's summer, it's convention season. All the restrictions have pretty much dropped, and most of the production companies that are related to our hobby are probably, about a year behind. So now that they're playing a catch-up, we're going to see a lot of news over the next 2 months or so related to our hobby. Plus, it's convention season, and we can actually have conventions this again. So there we go. Okay, so the number one story, of course, is the announcement that TSR, the Southwest's number one production of concrete flooring, TSR Games is back. We talked about that yesterday in a vlog, and I'm sure we will talk about it further because, of course, there's already a lot of positive stuff coming out of this, a lot of stuff coming out of this, and a lot of negative stuff coming out of this. What a shock. So this has been percolating for a while. The announcement was over the weekend, actually technically Friday. We still don't have a lot of information. We know that there's already at least one product in the pipeline called Giant Lands. We don't know what system they're using. The big question, of course, is since Gygax is involved, and since Larry Elmore, not Larry Elmo, I apologize for that one, Larry Elmore and James Ward and all these other people who have sort of been associated with the hobby for a very long time, some going all the way back to the beginning, what does this mean? What are they actually going to produce? Now, it's best bet that we're going to see all the stuff that Ernest Gary Gygax did under the Hobby Shop Dungeon title, like the Memorial Tomb, be released through the new TSR production company. But other than that, it sort of comes down to who has the IPs. And I think that's the big thing that people are wondering, and what is this going to mean for Wizards? What is this going to mean for 5th edition? What is this going to mean for the OSR? What is their plans? We have some insight, but again, kind of waiting before we jump into that pool. And, but it's news. And it's good news, I think. Or bad news. I don't know. We have some adventures coming out from our friends over at Ian Cider. We have a weekly update on what's coming up from Judge Dredd, Worlds of 2000 AD, Awful Cheer for Engine, and more. We have, of course, the picture of Hugh Grant wandering around in that bizarre-looking ascot Hollywood medieval Ren Fair costume, which a lot of people are saying that is the costume of his character, the main villain of the movie. But I don't know, it doesn't really look D&D or main villain movie-ish. If it does, that's a very low-budget looking costume. We have asked, does anybody know who this character is? Forge Fletcher. I looked, and I can't find any mention of him in the Forgotten Realms wiki anywhere. So, who is he? I guess he's a new character? I don't know. So Renegades Games announced a new deluxe edition of Vampire Holy Text, the Book of Nod for the World of Darkness, as well as Second Inquisition source book for Vampire the Masquerade. James Ward is auctioning off stuff from his personal library. This week he's auctioning off memos from his days in the TSR fiction department about the Ravenloft fiction line. We have some reviews coming up from Rob Wheeland about affordable 3D terrain. We have the Pulp Cthulhu coming out, which is the rules supplement for Call of Cthulhu that allows you to integrate cosmic horror into a pulp game. Iconic Dungeons and Dragons artist Jeff Easley is selling prints of some of his most famous pieces from Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. So if you're a big fan of some of that older classic art, head on over to Jeff Easley, ESLEY, and site or Etsy or whatever, and take a look. We have a lot more news from our friends over at that place that makes that game that we talk about a lot, Wizards of the Coast. Wizards of the Coast D&D executive producer Ray Whittaker announced that there will be 3 new major books this year and not just the 2 announced last week. So we know we have Wilds Beyond the Witchlight coming out, and we have Strixhaven coming out. Apparently there's a 3rd book coming out. It will probably be a Dragonomicon, and then that will probably lead us into 2022's Dragonlance. We don't know for sure what it'll be because, Wizards of the Coast is trying to keep things close to the edge, but anything they say could be, a smokescreen. So they could be saying, we're going to release this, and then you find out it's really something else. Because they have started to follow in the footsteps of Marvel in releasing hints that may or may not be true. We have a live stream benefiting Extra Life featuring host Kate Welch. It's a charity live stream with multiple people who are involved in Hollywood, including Jack Black and Kevin Smith. And there's another new book coming out that Jay Whittaker is now talking about that's been in development for, I guess, next year. So right now it has 2 classic settings coming out in 2022, one of which is probably going to be Eberron, 2 brand new Magic the Gathering settings, and 1 classic setting returning to Dungeons & Dragons. And these are going to be in a new format. Wizards of the Coast CEO Chris Cook spoke with Game Industry that there will be 6 new video games coming out over the next 5 years for Dungeons & Dragons, aside from Baldur's Gate and Dark Alliance. So at least one of these new games that they've announced is possibly going to be a video game and not a tabletop game. There was we do know that there was a survey up last week, but it was taken down because sorry. Getting old is fun, kids. There was a survey up. It was a typical harmless survey, and it just got blown completely out of proportion. Wizards of the Coast was accused of gatekeeping. Matt Colville was accused of gatekeeping. Wizards of the Coast was accused of racism because of this survey. So that's down. We also have coming up an attempt to get new players to the game yet again. Starting later summer and going into the fall. So we will be having free supplements available to gamesters relatively soon through the Wizards Play Network. So it'll be the introductory Forgotten Realms and Adventures in the Forgotten Realms books. And anybody who purchases Dungeons & Dragons Possible will receive the Welcome Booster Set. 20 copies will be available to each store should they order them now, anywhere in the United States, and then starting in the rest of the world later in the year. And of course, there's also the announcement of the Forgotten Realms Magic set, and now that's going to be the new core set for Magic going further. If you're a gamer, and even if you don't play Magic, if you've seen the card art, these are going to make great props because they have pictures of classic NPCs and classic settings and classic Magic items. So, and classic monsters. So, like, as you know, I talk about the use of cards all the time, and here. You find the Rod of Lordly whatever. Here's the card. You get to hold onto this card to show you exactly what it looks like. I think that's cool. I might pick some up even though I don't play Magic anymore. And we do know that E3 is coming up this weekend, or at least it's going to start sometime this weekend. So during that, there's probably going to be some stuff for Dark Alliance and some hits of whatever else we can expect from Wizards of the Coast on the video game side of things. Woo! Okay. Moving on. Another update came out from E3. Paradox Interactive released a trailer for Vampire the Masquerade Swan Song, narrative-focused game scheduled to release later this year, weaving stories between 3 different kindred. So if you are a fan of the ever-changing Vampire the Masquerade World of Darkness IP and want to play another game set in that world, there's a new one coming out. Oh, I'm sorry. I know I said we were done with Wizards of the Coast news, but apparently Wizards of the Coast can't stop doing things that are newsworthy. We have talked about it before. Of course, there is the Dungeon Masters Challenge coming up. It's going to be live. The contest started June 17th, and they're still taking some supplements now. It'll go through to the end of June, and then we're going to see the first round in July as part of the live D&D thing that we're going to see, the G4 whatever thing. We have talked about this previously. We talked about, all the legal mumbo jumbo that's attached to this. But once again, let's just remind you, before you subscribe and take part of this challenge, you do need to know that anything you submit to the Dungeon Masters Challenge, 110% becomes the property of Wizards of the Coast. No ifs, ands, or buts. You won't receive any payment for it. They do not have to give you credit for it. They can use it or choose not to use it. And that goes for ad infinitum to the future. So no matter 10 years from now, you still can't use your product if you submitted it in terms of the contest. And they don't even actually have to have the contest. That's another one that's on the fine print. If they feel they don't have enough entries, they're going to cancel the contest, but still keep your stuff. So submit anything, but don't expect much in the return. Chaosium has announced that all their Hero Quest Gloranthian books will be unavailable for purchase at the end of July, I believe. The last day to purchase is July 15th because the trademark transfers to Hasbro. Wow, so I guess Hasbro will now be doing the Hero Quest Worlds Chaosium Gloranthia stuff. Interesting. Or horrible. A new role-playing game for 26 Letter Publishing seeks to go into the paranormal realm of SCP this Monday with SCP, the tabletop RPG. So this is a communal internet fiction product focused on the secretive SCP Foundation. There'll be online short stories, horror fiction, and SCP events. This is the same system that used the creepypasta role-playing game that was kickstarted last year. The SCP tabletop role-playing game will be available June 21st. That's today. But there are things up, like free maps. So, communal internet fiction project. What does that mean? If you are aware of the Blair Witch stuff that they did, and of course Slender Man stuff, but that's really a bad example because what came out of Slender Man. But yeah, so communal internet fiction is basically taking the ideas that were initially percolated and created during the marketing phenomenon that was Blair Witch and using them. Oh, it's bad today. The weather must be changing. I'm sorry. Using them for a video game. Role-playing game. This is not the first time we've seen this happen. We know that this has happened before. A couple years ago when Monty Cook released his $200 role-playing game Invisible Suns, or whatever it was called, Dark Suns, Return to the Sun, I don't know. It's Monty Cook, so anything he produces he doesn't follow through with. But it also had a internet fiction aspect. That's a topic for a different vlog. Internet fiction role-playing. What type of influence is the continued growth of the digital media, internet access going to have on the future of the hobby? And obviously, it goes without question, there's going to be some. But that's the topic for another time. This is the news. And finally, sorry, we'll stop. We'll take some pills. Virtual tabletop bundle from Humble Bumble this week is 40 asset packs ready for use in any virtual tabletop, city, overland maps, battles, things, stuff like that. So it is going to benefit the Navy Marine Corps Relief Society. Ends July 1st, and this is all sorts of things you can use with virtual tabletops. It says any, but compatibility. God, jeez. I'm a mess today. Systems talking to each other is not 100%. So even though it says it's usable with any of these, I test them out first before you install them, and because what's compatible with digital virtual tabletop A may or may not be compatible with digital virtual tabletop B. Okay, so we had a ton of news. Obviously, the top story is the TSR thing and other stuff. And Wizards of the Coast has got a ton of things going on. But we are going to try and focus on other stuff going further besides Wizards of the Coast. Of course, that is a strange paradox for me, since a large portion of this vlog is discussing what's going on in the hobby, what is the news, and a large portion of gaming news is, of course, directly or indirectly related to 5th edition Wizards of the Coast and Critical Role. But, of course, whenever I talk about those three topics, I inevitably get myself in trouble when people keep telling me to stop talking about them. But, of course, they're a large part of the gaming news, which means if I completely stop talking about anything related to 5th edition, it sort of cuts out 80-70% of the shit I speak about. That's a huge burden. And speaking of burdens, there has been some research going into the hidden emotional costs of being a dungeon master. There are a lot of burdens of dungeon masters, but there's very little research going on into the physical and emotional costs. And I can tell you, for at least my personal experience, there's a huge emotional investment and a huge emotional cost. So a study has been done. Doesn't say who did the study. It just says that somebody has started a study on the physical and emotional cost of D&D and role-playing, and that, yes, there is one, but I guess they're just starting this and we can go further. We do know, there's fatigue and emotional fatigue, and it's just, it's exhausting being a dungeon master. People always wonder why I take breaks, and I'm like, you try doing this. And that is the RPG news of the week. Whew, I got to take my asthma medicine. It's getting worse, obviously, because of the weather. Hopefully it'll get sunny soon, and I will start feeling better. If you appreciate this content and me watching make myself a fool of myself, please let me know. If you don't appreciate this content and never want to see me do this again, because apparently I can't talk, please let me know. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. Help me hit 500 subs by August 4th, and we'll do something crazy. Hit that thumbs up, hit that like button, hit that notification button. Support me through the PayPal and the Ko-Fi, and above all, stay warm, stay safe, stay dry, stay off my lawn, and I'll talk to you later, Steves.